Hello, I'm Ken Sparks. Welcome to Grand Prix 85 and welcome to the running of the 1985 Austrian Grand Prix from the Österreichring circuit in Austria. Niki Lauda's hometown and, of course, Niki Lauda's home circuit. And what a beautiful day it is there, and we're getting set to cross to Murray Walker and James Hunt for their live coverage. Just one moment, via satellite, you'll get it on 9's Wide World of Sports.
40 minutes later, the Austrian Grand Prix restarts, and again a bad start for Nigel Mansell, a brilliant start for Keke Rosberg, who passes not only Mansell but Lauda as well, and is in second place as they come out of the Hellerlicht chicane and up towards the Glatz curve.
All pretty much say, oops, somebody was on the grass coming out then, and it looked as if it might have been a bit messy, but all bar one anyway were safely through. You may have seen a big shower of sparks from Rosberg's car as he was approaching that first chicane. Worry not, that was just the skid plates, so the car's very heavy at the moment. It's full fuel load, and there it is again. So the Williams is bottoming quite badly, but it is protected for that. They use plates which wear away during the race, but they protect the bottom of the car. So Rosberg, once again, a really fiery, aggressive opening of the race. We've seen this. Rosberg's been in tremendous form these last 3 or 4 races, doing just this every time. Mansell has managed to make 2 terrible starts on the trot today, which is rather unfortunate. I think Prost was creeping a little, and Mansell started to go, and then there wasn't the green, and then was probably off the throttle when the green light came on. And Rosberg climbing all over the back.
Yes, Keke Rosberg may be reaching for that boost knob to give himself a bit of extra power to get past Alain Prost on this vital first lap as they come over the brow of the hill. And there is Niki Lauda going through at the end of the first lap. And coming towards us, there's Lauda. And Piquet behind him, and Elio De Angelis.
The mistake from Lauda there. He slid a bit wide coming into the chicane, and already he's lost a lot of ground. But he'd lost that already, so a blistering first lap from Prost and Rosberg, and they've already pulled a very sizable gap on Niki Lauda, who in his efforts to chase them probably was a little bit over exuberant going into the chicane then, and made a mistake and lost further ground, but not a serious mistake.
And on this, the second lap, it's Alain Prost leading, as you can see. Keke Rosberg right behind him. Lauda, who made that mistake, in 3rd position. In 4th place, it's Nelson Piquet in the Brabham BMW. 5th position, Elio De Angelis in the JPS Lotus. And in 6th position, Nigel Mansell. Lap 2. This is the Texaco Benz. It's a 160-mile-an-hour stretch, believe it or not. Now up to the crest, down into the Jochenrindt curve. Keke Rosberg right in the wheel tracks of Alain Prost. The Williams challenging the McLaren. It's 190 miles an hour across the start line at the end of practice yesterday. Now up the rise, down into 2nd gear for the right-hander that they're approaching now. Niki Lauda in 3rd position in the background. Prost in a beautifully balanced car. The advantage of the McLaren and the John Barnard design is that everything is superbly balanced. The engine gives just enough power in race trim. There are probably more powerful engines than the Tag. The Honda engine and the BMW engine have probably both got more power, but John Barnard has been able to design a car as a whole which enables every one of those horsepower to be put down. Now there is Lauda making up ground after his half spin.
Yes, the pattern seems to be developing now. It looks at the moment like it's the two McLarens and Rosberg in a class of their own, and I say that because Lauda, after his fairly tardy opening lap and little mistake we saw on the second, now seems to have settled down and would appear to be holding the two leaders. Likewise, Rosberg, after his very aggressive opening lap, trying to get past Prost to get in front, seems to have settled now into a second place and certainly isn't making any attacking moves at the moment. Remember, the circuit is so quick, it's very difficult to follow another car very closely here because all the corners are fast, therefore the cars depend a lot on the effectiveness of their wings, and when you're following another car closely, the air, there's sparks. Rosberg's car is bottoming very hard, and that shouldn't be a problem though, and it should reduce, as I say, as the fuel load comes down. Remember, when these cars are full of fuel, they are half as heavy again as when they are empty, and that makes a big difference to the performance and handling of the car. There's Piquet leading the rest of the bunch through, and it may be that Piquet's just holding them up a little bit. Remember, the Brabham's very fast in a straight line, and makes it awfully hard work to pass.
Nigel Mansell there, the third of these three cars, is in 6th position. Derek Warwick is in 11th place. Jonathan Palmer is 20th. And there are Piquet, De Angelis, Mansell, Tombe, Theo Fabi. 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th and 8th. Nigel Mansell right behind Elio De Angelis. They're round the Bosch curve now, and you can see that there's a big gap between Niki Lauda in 3rd place and the 4th position man as Prost goes through. Now he's coming up through to complete his 4th lap in this 52 lap race, full distance.
And where is Rosberg? He certainly dropped back a little bit. Didn't see him through then. And Rosberg has gone missing by the look of it. We haven't seen what happened to him, but Lauda has come through in 2nd place. So whatever's happened to Keke Rosberg, we will let you know as soon as possible, but he is certainly out of that leading battle at the moment. It would appear that Piquet is holding up the group behind him. That's not necessarily Piquet's fault. I'm sure he's going as fast as he can, and there is Rosberg. So Rosberg in mechanical trouble. He's freewheeling in and coming into the pits and undoing his visor, and looks like a man who's finished his afternoon's work. Very good shot of Lauda sliding the car as he goes out on the highest part of the circuit, reaching maximum speed down the long straight, running downhill towards the Bosch curve. Just to line up carefully through that left-hand kink and then onto the brakes. Piquet bottoming a bit, plenty of sparks right here today, and of course this track gets pretty bumpy. It's being in an area of Europe where they have pretty hard winters, it's quite difficult to maintain the surface of the track in good condition, and has over the years got quite bumpy.
And as Prost goes through, about 4 seconds ahead of Lauda, we know that Niki Lauda, from what he said yesterday in his retirement speech, intends to win this Austrian Grand Prix if he possibly can. The fact that Alain Prost is in 2nd position in the World Championship and Lauda is only 12th is not going to make any difference to Lauda. He's going for it as hard as he can. It was a 4.5 second gap between himself and Prost. It looks about the same, maybe marginally less, but what a scrap going on for that 3rd position between Nelson Piquet in the Brabham BMW, the leading Pirelli tyre driver, Elio De Angelis in the JPS Lotus, and then right behind them, Nigel Mansell in the Williams Honda, the only one of those two cars left with Keke Rosberg out. And here's Lauda, really pressing to try and close the gap between. Now there is Prost. Now let's see, if we stay with this, I can give you the gap between them. The gap between Prost and Lauda is 4.7 seconds, so Prost is maintaining his lead.
Yes, and Lauda looks to me as if he's giving it very much 100 or 100+% at the moment, and he's, if anything, losing ground very slightly to Alain Prost. And there is the battle for 3rd place. Piquet leading it. De Angelis now looking for a way round, and the queue is forming behind Nelson Piquet. So what we got to do is wait till somebody gets past him and see if they can then make any sort of a run at the leading McLarens. And 15.9 seconds Prost leads Nelson Piquet behind, and that's Eddie Cheever looking very much like a blown engine, so he's finishing for the day. So the drivers behind Piquet, De Angelis and Mansell. Mansell, you see, starting to press De Angelis now. Well, I would imagine they'll be well aware of this 16-second-ish gap that Piquet is allowing to form, and they'll be beginning to get quite anxious about getting past him to see if they can have a go at the McLaren.
And there's only about 2 seconds between Nigel Mansell there in 5th position and Patrick Tambay in the Renault, who's in 6th place. No, it's Farby in 6th position now. Farby has taken Patrick Tambay. So Teo Farby, the Italian who drove for Brabham last year, in this superbly balanced Tolman on Pirelli tyres like Nelson Piquet. There is Piquet. He's starting to catch the 5th place man Nigel Mansell, who's right behind number 11, 4th Elio De Angelis. There is the 3rd man Nelson Piquet. This is lap 7, and it is still Prost leading. Lauda 2nd, Piquet 3rd, De Angelis 4th, Mansell 5th, Farby in 6th position. So it's McLaren, Brabham, JPS, Lotus, then the Williams, and then the Tolman. And look at Mansell right up with Elio De Angelis. Nelson Piquet pulling away a bit. Piquet, who was 2nd last year.
And Mansell is nearly close enough to have a challenge. He's going to have a look down the inside. And I don't know if you noticed, you could see the little vortices of air off the 2 rear wings of the Lotus and the Williams as they came over the brow. It's a tremendous picture. Engine trouble, we understand, was what put Keke Rosberg out. But the drivers following Piquet will definitely be getting quite frustrated now, because it's 18 seconds, that caption just showed us, was the gap from Prost to Piquet, and after only 6 laps. So you don't need to be a brain surgeon to work out that that's 3 seconds a lap, and that is a lot that the McLarens are pulling away. I do strongly suspect that whoever gets past Piquet will not be able to match the McLarens for pace. Their chassis has been so good here. They dominated practice, although of course well, the rain really dominated practice on Saturday for qualifying when everybody was just about to go quicker. Heavens open, the track was wet, so nobody improved. But the McLarens have been, their chassis just has been better than anybody else here.
Lap 8, and Alain Prost is leading Niki Lauda by 4.7 seconds, and that's quite a considerable cushion at this period of the race. Now, Nelson Piquet in 3rd position on the left is definitely easing away from that battle for 4th, 5th and 6th. There's the Brabham, Piquet 3rd, De Angelis, Mansell, Farby. And Farby's probably one of the quickest men on the circuit right now. He's closed the gap between himself and the men in front of him. He's in a position soon to challenge Nigel Mansell, who's had that go at Elio De Angelis. They come out of the Jochenrindt curve. That's 160 miles an hour, building up to 190.
Yes, I think what may be happening now is that the Pirelli tyres, which are of this mob, are worn by Piquet and Farby, they have had trouble, Pirellis, with getting their tyres to warm up quickly enough. And this is not good weather for nice warm tyres, and it looks to me as if the Pirellis are now beginning to work better than they were in the opening laps.
Alain Prost round the Bosch curve, and it's 4.75 seconds exactly between himself and Niki Lauda. There is Lauda. Lauda was very lucky to win last year. He got into a lead position. Then he lost his 4th gear, which is the most important gear to have at the Österreichring. He was on 2nd, 3rd and 5th. You don't use 1st here, obviously. And in spite of that, he'd got such a lead that he was able to come home and win for the first time in his home country in many, many years of trying. Now he's coming through to complete his 9th lap over the line now. into the straight, up the hill, into the Hellerlicht curve, right and then left, out of it, starting another slight rise up towards the Glatz curve with open country to the left and the right. Those magnificent Styrian mountains in the background, and Alain Prost is maintaining his comfortable lead, getting pit signals. He's round the Glatz curve. That's about 160 miles an hour. There is Lauda. Now they're into the fastest part of the course. De Angelis third, Mansell fourth, De Angelis fourth, Mansell fifth, Farby sixth, still all together. Piquet there in front of them in third position. And the Bosch curve that they're approaching now, as into the pits comes Patrick Tambay, and you can see what his problem is. Left rear tyre, a bit of beautiful positioning there. He stopped absolutely at the right point for the mechanic to get the pneumatic hammer onto that wheel nut. And now Nelson Piquet, who had pulled away a bit, is being caught by Elio De Angelis. By the way, Patrick Tambay was in 7th place when he came in.
26, 27, 28, 29. Oh, here we are at JT Bossy, and as you can see, they're overstocked with current model Telstars, Meteors and Lasers.
Great cars too, excellent sellers, run on lead-free or super. You know, we've sold literally hundreds and hundreds of these since introduction, but the new model's coming, so the last 30, we've just got to drop them.
Well, you've heard it, these cars have got to go. So hurry, see JT Bossy for a once-in-a-model deal.
Oh, not again.
Excuse me.
A freshly ironed shirt, and does he care? All that work and no one ever notices. But now I use Fabulon. Things are different. With Fabulon, I can glide through the biggest wrinkles, the toughest creases, and finish with a look, a feel, a smell that simply can't be ignored.
Starting with Fabulon gives you a great finish.
Darling, you don't need to raise a sweat. Truck it in, it's your best bet. Don't do a thing when you get an ACI home. When I looked around, I could see the difference in the quality. So it's just got to be an ACI home.
Every year, countless thousands of advertisements and commercials appear in Australia. Nearly all come under review in one way or another to make sure they're not misleading or offensive. Just the same, you may see an advertisement you think is misleading or offensive. That's where we come in. The Advertising Standards Council, an independent body whose job it is to hear complaints about advertising. So, if an advertisement bothers you, bother us, the Advertising Standards Council, or contact this station.
And Ayrton Senna is now ahead of Alboreto. Senna started only 14th on the grid. That's Theo Farby in 6th position.
Just a little bit of mental arithmetic there, and if the two McLarens pull away at the current rate from the rest of the field, they will lap the entire field by the end of the race. That's not to suggest that they will, because one's got to bear in mind that when they get a big lead, they'll probably ease up and cut their fuel consumption, turn the power down on their boost control for the turbocharged engine, but at the moment they are on schedule to lap the rest of the field. Such is their dominance. Piquet now seems to be a lot more comfortable at the front of this chasing group, battling for 3rd place, and as Mario was just saying, overtaking really is very difficult at this circuit because of the problem that I mentioned earlier with the wings not working. These are all fast corners that need maximum downforce, and when you when you get within 5 car lengths of another car, your wings really don't work very well at these high speeds, as the car is making a hole in the air and none is going over your wing surfaces and you're in turbulence. So that is the problem. You can't sit right on somebody's tail and then just jump out because you don't get the grip in the corners.
Very soon, I think, we are going to see Ayrton Senna literally coming into the picture, because as Teo Fabi goes across the line to complete another lap, Ayrton Senna is in 7th position. There he is in the background. Senna has come up from 14th to 7th in 12 laps, and Senna really feels he has something to prove. He could have won if luck had gone his way instead of against him. 6 Grand Prix this year, and this is the 10th out of 16 which make up the World Series. But there is Fabi, and that, number 2 in the red and white Marlboro McLaren, race leader Alain Prost, where he likes to be, at the front with a nice comfortable cushion, controlling the race. Now watch for Lauda, number 1, world champion. Long way to go. This is lap 13. It's a 52-lap race.
Now last year, it's going to be a very difficult decision for the McLaren team. Last year, the 2 drivers, as they were untouchable by anybody else in the World Championship, had no instructions as far as who was to win races and how they were to go about it. They were allowed to race each other all the way. Now, this is a very different situation, and I'm quite sure that the McLaren team will be very anxious to put Alain Prost across the line first, and also to slow Lauda down and not to have Lauda race him towards the end of the race, because Prost is fighting precariously for the World Championship with Michele Alboreto, with Lauda really not in contention at all this year in view of all the mechanical and other dramas that he's had. So the McLaren team will have to do, I would imagine, the very difficult thing of asking Lauda not to race Prost and not to win this race, because it's essential the 9 points go to Prost, and of course it's essential too that both McLarens should be able to ease up and use this tremendous chassis dominance over their rivals, to use that to give them more mechanical sympathy by driving the cars a lot more softly in the second half of the race. So we'll wait to see just whether these 2 McLarens continue to charge hard. Remember, the lead that Prost already has is what most drivers consider a comfortable lead over all but Niki Lauda, and would, in the normal way, already be looking to slow down, turn down his boost, look after the car, and start driving defensively for a finish. But at the moment, they appear to be going at it at full effort, the 2 McLaren men.
20 cars left out of the 25 that started, as we look at Red 5, Nigel Mansell in the Williams. But if McLaren do ask, and De Angelis nearly losing it, which is where one of the, and that is that's Andrea De Cesaris out in a really big way in the Ligier, and you can see the front of the car destroyed.
He's had a big shunt because he's turned that over. Look, there's mud on his helmet and the car has rolled, and you can see where it dug into the bank there. So the good thing though about a shunt like that, he looked quite well coming out, but of course it did have a nice soft landing, the car. The Österreichring has at points like that good runoff areas, and De Cesaris, dear oh dear, he's been all over the place in that. The car looks absolutely totaled. It's definitely been over. There's the rear wing, or no, that's the nose wing. Not much use to them now.
That was at the Texaco Benz, and De Cesaris would have been doing all of 160 miles an hour when that accident started. These are the 2 Arrows cars of Boutsen and Berger, who are in respectively 15th and 16th places, and Berger in a new car. He was not one of the cars that we gave you as being a new one earlier on in the race, but he decided subsequently to come out in the spare car of the Arrows team. And now on lap 16 out of 52, it's Alain Prost leading by, as near as makes no difference, 5 seconds from Niki Lauda. In 3rd position, Nelson Piquet. Right behind him, in 4th place, Elio De Angelis. Right behind him, 5th, is Nigel Mansell. 6th is Teo Fabi. 7th and gaining is Ayrton Senna. And 8th is Michele Alboreto. They've given it a squirt of, I imagine, totally unnecessary fire extinguisher power, and it looks as though the fire marshal's got his fire extinguisher going and doesn't know how to turn it off. And now, I apologise to him, he's got it right. Yes, I was explaining earlier on when we got the drama of De Cesaris that Niki Lauda said to me yesterday that if he had the chance of winning this race, he was going to, even if it affected Prost's World Championship chances. Well, that's what he said, but what will he do if he gets orders? That could be a very different thing altogether. Well, there is Prost. Now, let's see if we can find a point. Let's see how far Niki Lauda is behind him. Alain Prost, race leader. He's already won 4 Grand Prix this year. One of them was disallowed, San Marino. And it looks to me visually as though Niki Lauda, who is the fastest man on the circuit, 1:31. That's a new lap record, 1:31.013 for Niki Lauda. New lap record. And so it should be, because the lap record was actually put up by René Arnoux in a Renault in 1980, 1:32.5. Lauda is the fastest man on the circuit. He is definitely going for it. He's trying to catch Alain Prost, who will be totally aware of the situation. And before very much longer, we're going to have that classic situation where the race leader starts catching and then lapping the tail enders, which can be both an opportunity and a problem for him. It can be an opportunity if he can put men between him and the chap who's trying to catch him. It can be a problem if he does not. And as we watch Lauda, I can tell you that Ayrton Senna, as I predicted, has not only caught Fabi, but has got past him and is now in 6th position. And I'm expecting to see very shortly a new caption on that screen saying that another lap record has appeared, and this time it will be down to Ayrton Senna as opposed to Niki Lauda that we're watching now on lap 17. Prost leading, Lauda second. Piquet still in 3rd position. Will the Brabham last? It hasn't been the most reliable car this season, but they've also had a lot of problems with their tyres. Well, if you can tell me what Höchstgeschwindigkeit means, I would like to know, but
I can't tell you what it means, but I'm pretty sure that was a readout of the straight line speed through the speed trap of Prost's McLaren, which is where he just passed the fastest point on the circuit. So that's a pretty prodigious velocity, near just on 320 kilometers an hour, which is exactly 200 miles an hour. So he was within a few tenths of a mile an hour of 200 then.
And even that's not the fastest, because the Brabhams were doing 210 miles an hour on the approach to the Bosch curve yesterday in practice. Quite incredible. Niki Lauda completing another lap, completing his 18th lap. And there he can... Now, Prost has got somebody in front of him. I just saw as he went into the Hella-League chicane that Alain Prost was starting to lap people. Now, he may well have got past that particular man. Well, he hasn't. We just saw him there. I think Prost is being held up, and this is giving Niki Lauda his opportunity. And then we're going to see the answer to the question that James raised. Are there any team orders? And if so, will Niki Lauda take any notice of them? Well, you can see Prost has got past that tail ender. I would somehow expect Lauda, who is an extremely disciplined and experienced race driver, not to do what René Arnoux did in the French Grand Prix some years ago, ignore it and affect the World Championship chances of his teammate.
Yes, very difficult situation for Niki, though, if he gets into a chance to to win the race, and he's certainly working for that situation. Now, this is probably De Cesaris's accident. Yep, there goes the car, over and over and over. Oh dear, that was a spectacular one. Whew. Dear, oh dear. Well, that's fine testimony to the strength of the car. De Cesaris dusts himself down, climbs out unhurt, because, of course, the great thing is that was a fairly soft landing, and it looked a lot worse in some ways than it is, because with nothing solid to hit, those cars are very strong for an earthy finish like that. But, God, dear, oh dear, what happened was something I think must have broken on the car, because he appeared to lose control of it going into the corner, or under braking for the corner, where he would have been doing something like 180, 190 miles an hour. And then the car went in, and of course the soft, wet verges there, the car dug in, and that's what got it flipping and cartwheeling. But that was a very spectacular performance. No, going back to the Lauda situation, it really is a very, very difficult one for Nicky, because he's had a terrible season this year. Nothing has gone right for him. He's retiring at the end of the year, as he announced yesterday. And at his home Grand Prix, this might well be his last ever chance to win a Grand Prix. That is the attitude that one has in a situation like this, particularly, of course, if he's going to have to help Prost in the rest of the season. And there will be, even if team orders tell him to slow down, there will be a huge temptation for him to say, stuff it, been around a long time, what can they do? But knowing Nicky, he might still think that there's something that can be done with his contract, because there's probably still another $2 or $3 million to come. And Mansell has moved up ahead of De Angelis. There, we've captured it straight away on the leaderboard. So, but there's sort of $1.5, $2 million still to come. Nicky might feel under threat, and I'm sure if he feels that's under threat with his expensive shopping list for aeroplanes, he'll back off and behave himself. But it really is a difficult one emotionally for him.
And Niki Lauda is catching Prost. The gap is down to 3.7 seconds. Philippe Alliot is out. This is lap 20. And as you heard, Nigel Mansell has passed Elio De Angelis and is now in 4th position behind Nelson Piquet. So, lap 21, Alain Prost leading. Niki Lauda catching him. I've got the stopwatch running on this corner now, and the gap at that point is 3.8 seconds. Prost leads, Lauda second. In 3rd position, Piquet. 4th is Mansell. 5th, De Angelis. In 6th position is the car of Ayrton Senna. So both the Marlboro McLarens and both the JPS Lotus cars are in the top 6.
ACI Homes Tamworth, builders of top quality homes and proud users of LBI products. Because ACI Homes insist on high quality control standards, they use and recommend LBI products. Assembled to your individual specifications and delivered to your site, an ACI home is possibly the best investment you'll ever make. So if you're looking for a quality home, remember ACI Homes. They're the homes built to high quality control standards using LBI products. ACI Homes, if you're looking for quality, give them a call.
Bonsoir, madame, monsieur. May I take yours of now?
No, thank you, no wine.
Goodbye.
Straight. It's new generation sorbent.
It's so much softer than anything else.
Feel it.
A whole new kind of softness.
Not weak.
That's why we bring our own sorbent. We never know what we'll find.
Hey, garçon, I am coming. Hey, bring your own.
New generation sorbent. A whole new kind of softness. Bring your own.
Leave it to Cleaver's Tyre Service to come up with the right kind of tyre for your vehicle. Being one of the largest independent tyre dealers on the East Coast, they have a great selection of quality tyres to choose from. Bridgestone V207 steel to suit most passenger vehicles. Bridgestone Desert Duelers for off-road motorists who depend on a reliable tyre. And the high-performance 65 series with exceptional road-holding ability in wet weather. Leave it to Cleaver's Tyre Service to come up with the right kind of tyre for your vehicle. They know about tyres.
Over $1 million of top-quality used machinery must be sold at Alex Simon's, Corindi, Gunnedah and Narrabri. If you've been putting off making that purchase, now is the time, because if you buy any used tractor or header over $10,000, your name will go into the big draw and could win you a holiday for two for 7 days at Launceston Casino Country Club, or 7 days on beautiful Daydream Island. Don't put it off any longer. Hurry into Alex Simon's, Corindi, Gunnedah and Narrabri.
Still 2.6 seconds, and Lauda, as you see for yourselves, has got past Berger. He's still got Boutsen and Beloff to get past, because now number 2 there, Alain Prost, the race leader on lap 23, has got a clear track in front of him. He's passed both the Arrows and he's passed the Tyrrell. Now watch Lauda. There's Prost. Lauda is past Boutsen. Lauda is coming up to Beloff. The gap is down to 2.33 seconds. Niki Lauda, driving with all his old verve and fire, which he's never actually lost, is really searing through the field. I don't believe that caption, 3.5 seconds, and that's where De Cesaris went off. The Texaco Benz, which they take at some 160 miles an hour. You saw the gash in the circuit, and a quick look at De Cesaris's car in the background, still there. And now Niki Lauda is on lap 23, and the gap is 1.97 seconds.
Well, the two McLarens going through that little group of cars that they were lapping then was a really powerful and obvious demonstration of their immense superiority chassis-wise over other cars, because they're not super fast down the straight, but that long corner onto the fastest part of the circuit, they were able to get so much more speed through that corner, the one they're approaching now, than the other cars, that they just walked past them on the straight as they came out of the corner. Here, that was very well driven. Prost was spotted and given room. Sorry, Lauda was, as he went through, and there the gap is. So that exchange with the back markers, if anything, has brought Niki a little bit closer to Alain Prost, as one would expect.
And it's lap 24 now. Tremendous excitement at the front, but tremendous excitement behind them, because Nigel Mansell in 4th position is right up with Nelson Piquet ahead of De Angelis, and Senna is right with De Angelis. In fact, as I talk to you, Senna has gone past Elio De Angelis into 5th position. So, lap 24, you're looking at the battle for the lead. Prost, the leader. Lauda, 2nd. 3rd position is Piquet. Right behind him in 4th place is Mansell. In 5th position now, it is Senna, pulling away from Elio De Angelis in 6th position. In 7th place, it is Michele Alboreto, and I remind you, as they complete another lap, that Michele Alboreto is leading the World Championship with Prost 2nd. Now, why were the McLaren mechanics there out in the pit lane with that set of Goodyear tyres? Not necessarily because they're expecting them to come in, but so that they're ready for them if they do.
Yes, they had a slight air of expectancy about them. Of course, they are, as Murray says, ready throughout a race at all times with a new set of wheels and tyres if required, and very often if a car comes into the pits, they'll bang on a new set of tyres anyway, even if it's come in for another reason, because fresh tyres work better. But they did look as if they expected that, although both McLarens still seem to be going very well indeed. And Lauda is certainly driving a really charging race, which of course is making Prost have to do the same thing in front. And we saw that little slide from Prost at the chicane 2 or 3 laps ago, and I think that underlined how very much on the limit both these drivers are. So hard racing from the two McLarens, despite everything.
1.5 seconds, and here's a bit of interesting information. The tyre that takes the most wear, and Lauda's definitely catching Prost, is the left rear at the Österreichring. Prost has got a B compound tyre on his left rear, C's on the other 3 wheels. The B is harder than the C, and Niki Lauda is actually on soft race tyres all the way round, so he's got an advantage at the moment, a small advantage, but it's not necessarily one that'll last. But meantime, he's making the most of that advantage. Lap 26, right together.
Yes, so his problem will be if the C wears more and it starts to become too worn by the end of the race, because the other problem with the tyre could be overheating of the compound, and the softer it is, the hotter it runs. But clearly that isn't a problem for Niki. It's the more likely of the two problems, and that is one of the Tolmans. That's Fabi in having attention, and it looked like fairly major attention. So the softer tyre, because it's lasted this long, is not probably the C on Nicky's left rear is not going to overheat. It's just a worry. And we can't see this on our monitor, but Piquet is slowing down. We don't yet know why, but so Piquet is about to lose third place.
Indeed, James, he has done so. I've seen that Nigel Mansell is up into third position. The British driver, Nigel Mansell, in the Williams Honda, up into third position ahead of Nelson Piquet. But all eyes, obviously, are on this fantastic scrap between the two teammates who finished first and second in last year's World Championship. They're in reverse order in this race. Prost, who was second in the championship, goes into the pits, and Lauda takes the lead on lap 26. So Alain Prost is coming in now. We'll put the stopwatch on him and see how much time he loses with this tyre change. They were going to make their minds up just before the race began whether or not to come in for tyres, and it certainly looks as though that was intended, and the gap, the time was just a whisker over 12 seconds. Well, we'll soon know, because if Prost's stop was planned, it's extremely likely that Lauda will come in for one as well. I've got a feeling in my bones he's not going to, in which case Lauda there now in the lead, and his home Grand Prix in his retirement year could make it 2 wins in a row in Austria.
Yes, I strongly suspect that Prost was furnished with C's all round then, and because the car will now be lighter, a good bit lighter than when it started the race, and of course the track will have got a bit of rubber down, and there is Mansell's car. So Nigel Mansell has stopped out on the circuit and was in third place, so that's a great shame. And Nelson Piquet limping slowly into the pits out of 6th place. They're going to give him a new set of tyres, but I think he's got more deeper problems than just the requirement for new tyres. Talking to Gordon Murray, he's explaining away, so there's obviously something, a bit of a worry there.
Lap 27 with the double world champion Nelson Piquet in the Brabham BMW, having a very leisurely stop by Grand Prix standards, with Niki Lauda now in the lead, and out of the race goes Piquet to join the previous major retirements of Nigel Mansell, Andrea De Cesaris, Alio, Cheever and Keke Rosberg. So both the Williams are out. There goes Alain Prost, who is still in second position, because when he came into the pits, he was some 37 seconds ahead of the then third place man Nelson Piquet. And with both Piquet and Mansell out on that dramatic lap 26, it means in third position now is Senna. Senna in the JPS Lotus with its Goodyear tyres and its Renault engine is in third place. Just at halfway position with Elio De Angelis well up. So in the first 4 places, the 2 Marlboro McLarens and the 2 JPS cars. There's Teo Fabi. He's come back into the pits. After 27 laps in this 52-lap race, then Niki Lauda leading. Alain Prost down to second place on new tyres. There's Lauda, the leader. In third position, Senna. In fourth position, De Angelis. Fifth now, and in the World Championship points, which he so desperately needs, Michele Alboreto. Right behind him, his teammate, Stefan Johansson in the second Ferrari. The Austrian Grand Prix, with the sun shining and shadows being cast, is getting to be very, very exciting indeed.
Now, Lauda will have a little bit of an advantage over Alain Prost in view of the fact that Prost has changed tyres first, because the situation now exists whereby the Goodyear and McLaren engineers will have had a chance to look at Prost's tyres to see and get an idea of how quickly Lauda's will be wearing, so they can then decide whether to call him in or not.
Yeah, and Lauda is now up behind Derek Warwick in the Renault. who moves over and lets Lauda through. A very good bit of driving there on the Texaco Benz. Warwick in 8th position. Still managed at 160 miles an hour to change direction and let the world champion and race leader, number 1, Niki Lauda, on lap 29 through. And Lauda will have lost very little time there. Now Prost has got the problem. 2 Ferraris, 2 Marlboro McLarens, and 2 JPS Lotus cars in the top 6 places, the World Championship point scoring places. The world champion, Lauda.
And we got quite a scrap going on behind because there is less than 10 seconds separating those next 4 places from 3rd to 6th.
From Tenterfield to Tamworth, Lightning Ridge to the coast, Heartland Home Improvements are your complete home improvement centre with a full range of products including LBI roofing and style deck, products with almost limitless design possibilities. Damon solid vinyl cladding that comes with a lifetime guarantee, continuous aluminium guttering, aluminium window frames, quality designed kitchens. From Tenterfield to Tamworth, Lightning Ridge to the coast, you can trust Heartland Home Improvements Glen Innes, your complete home improvement and LBI centre.
Primary or secondary tillage, precise depth control, independent gang suspension, adjustable cutting and convenient transportation. Just a few of the advantages of owning the Steiger tandem offset trail disc plough. Folding to 4.9 metres for easier transportation on the road. This is the plough for today's busy farmer. Ask your Steiger dealer about the Steiger tandem offset trail disc plough.
Your local Steiger dealers, Cornishes Tamworth, RH Taylor Quirindi, Namoy Valley Implements, Narrabri.
Builders of quality homes in Port Macquarie since 1971. The Emron Building Company. Choose from 6 outstanding designs built to beautifully complement our Australian way of life. Or have the Emron Building Company design a home to your own specifications. It's a home built with the strength of experience. An Emron home. On display at the HIA Greater Newcastle Building Society Display Village at Settlement Shores, Port Macquarie.
Tail shaft balancing, Retorque can do it. Retorque Engine Reconditioning have recently installed the very latest in engine and tail shaft balancing equipment and can now provide this specialised service on all cars, trucks and tractors at their modern newly equipped engine reconditioning workshop in Tamworth. From the coast to the Hunter Valley, from the Queensland border to Dubbo, Retorque can service your reconditioning requirements, and Retorque now stock the complete range of microdot helicoils. Retorque Engine Reconditioning for balancing, helicoils and good old-fashioned service.
Now, look at this replay as Jacques Lafitte on the left goes through, and that's Derek Warwick going off at the Heller Licht curve, and it looks as though Derek Warwick's race is run, so the Englishman, who was in 8th position, goes out of the Austrian Grand Prix to retire and add to his misery. And De Angelis is out of the pits as Niki Lauda comes up to the Heller Licht chicane again. Right, left. Elio De Angelis stopped for a set of Goodyear boots, and Niki Lauda won't have done his Goodyear tyres very much good with that bit of a slide he had coming out of the Heller Licht chicane on his way up to the Glatz bend. This is where it starts to really climb. Now the descent to the fastest part of the course. Well over 190 miles an hour as he goes down into 4th gear for the 160 mile an hour Bosch curve, one of the most demanding corners in motor racing anywhere. And we are now, or Lauda is now, on lap 32, on his way to his 2nd Austrian Grand Prix victory in 2 years, chased by his teammate Alain Prost. And the interesting thing in the race now is to watch the progress of Michele Alboreto, who we haven't seen for a long, long time. In fact, we've only seen him once on our monitors, but I'll tell you this, he is in 4th position now behind Senna, and he's going extremely well, and he needs to go well, because when this race began, the World Championship gap between Alboreto, the championship leader, and this is Lauda taking De Angelis, the gap between Alboreto, the World Championship leader, and Prost was 5 points. Now, Alain Prost is on 6 points at the present moment for his 2nd place. And Alboreto's on 3.
Now, here's an interesting thing to have a look at. De Angelis has come out of the pits. He's just had a lap so far to warm his tyres up. He's on fresh rubber, and it'll be interesting to see whether he can stay with Niki Lauda. He's in 6th place, one lap down, but fresh rubber. Once he gets it warm, it may take another lap to get the new set of tyres up to their optimum performance. But it'll be interesting to see whether new rubber can make up the difference that obviously the McLaren has with the chassis.
You saw that caption, Prost, some 1 minute 29 seconds. That's another fastest lap, and not only a new lap record, but about 1.5 seconds faster than the previous lap record of the man you're looking at, Niki Lauda, which in turn was over a second faster than the lap record that René Arnoux held from 1980. And Elio De Angelis does not seem to be making any impression on the gap between himself and Niki Lauda, notwithstanding the fact that he's on fresh rubber. De Angelis, a very unpopular man last year, because it was his oil that was laid down on the Jochen Rindt curve there that resulted in Alain Prost spinning out of contention, not only in the race, but effectively the World Championship, when De Angelis, with a broken engine, toured back on the racing line back to the pits, laying oil as he did so. Niki Lauda thoroughly settled down now in this, his 167th Grand Prix. And there's Alboreto. There is the man I have been looking for and waiting for. He's in 3rd position. Now, what is the gap between Senna, number 12, and Alboreto, number 27? Alboreto in 4th position.
Yes, the lap times that we've now got available rather demonstrate the value of new rubber, in that Niki Lauda's fastest lap in the race up so far was 1:31.0 roughly, and Prost has done a lap in the 29s, having in a similar chassis but on new rubber. Oh dear, our picture's gone dark now, it's come back. And that means that there's a good 1.5 seconds advantage for the new tyres, and there is Ayrton Senna, who's having a very good race.
Now, there's only 6.5 seconds between Senna, who is 3rd, and Alboreto, who is 4th. And Alboreto has got his teammate Johansson right behind him in 5th place, and down to 6th position has gone Elio De Angelis. A very, very interesting situation. There is Senna, number 12, in the Renault-powered JPS Lotus, in 3rd position. 6 seconds behind him, Alboreto, right behind him, Johansson. So both the Ferraris, which had the most appalling engine and handling problems in practice, seem to be back on the pace now, but certainly not on the pace of Niki Lauda, the race leader, and Alain Prost in 2nd place.
Well, Prost is 21 seconds behind Lauda, and he would be lapping, we would anticipate, probably 1.5 seconds per lap faster than Lauda, with the advantage of new tyres. So he still could catch Niki, and if he can get near him, he will have that better rubber. There is Alboreto in the Ferrari, followed by Stefan Johansson, and chasing hard on Ayrton Senna, who we've just seen. So it's interesting, they're going back to the tyre conversation I was having earlier, with De Angelis following Lauda out there. He still can't keep up, despite the fact that he's got rubber on his car that's probably worth 1.5 seconds or more per lap, which means that the McLaren chassis therefore is at least a second and a half a lap quicker than the Lotus, and therefore probably anything else. And that is one of the arrows is going to a neat parking spot.
Yeah, it's Thierry Boutsen. And in 7th position is Mark Surer. Remember Mark Surer in the Brabham BMW. And the spectators who can get on the infield here. And over the crest goes the Marlboro McLaren of race leader Niki Lauda. And he is on his 35th lap in this 52-lap race. And the excitement is just as much whether Michele Alboreto, there is Surer. Now Surer has been caught and lapped. He's in 8th position, been caught and lapped by Prost, who as you see is the fastest man on the circuit, 1:29.4 in round figures. That's a new lap record. So Prost doing his darndest to catch and retake the lead from Niki Lauda, and there is Berger's car, number 17, the Arrows, out of the race again with fire extinguisher fluid. And that's probably because the turbocharger acts as a heat sink and can very easily set fire to the plastic and fiberglass bodywork, and the marshals have sensibly given it a squirt from the fire extinguisher. Prost coming through to complete another lap, and that's his 36th lap completed. 3rd position, it's still Senna. 4th, Alboreto. 5th, Johansson. 6th, De Angelis.
But I reckon that Prost is going to be able to catch Niki by the end of the race. He's some 18 seconds behind. He's going a good bit quicker with 15 laps to go. He's only got to be just over a second a lap quicker. And I should think Niki's soft compound Goodyears are getting quite tired by now. So now down to 17 seconds. So it's coming down all the time. So I fancy Prost to catch him. Of course, Niki is now in a difficult situation because it's too late for him to go and make his tyre change. He's rather stuck with staying out there on what he's got, because if he went in now, he would hand the lead back to Prost.
And if and when Alain Prost catches Niki Lauda, will the world champion Austrian move over and let him pass? Will he not? Alain Prost will have to fight every inch of the way, and it really will depend on how much better his C compound, we assume, Goodyear tyres can stick to the track in the end analysis, because I think it's going to be a very close run thing. There is then Alain Prost, 4 times a Grand Prix winner this year, 3 times officially, and he's really pushing it to the ultimate as he goes round the Jochen Rindt curve to complete his 37th lap, to climb the hill on, and there the McLaren team all standing in the pit lane looking up towards the Jochen Rindt curve with noch 15 Runden to go. That's another 15 laps in the Austrian Grand Prix, and Prost charging. Now there's Lauda. You see Lauda is up behind Fabi now. She's being shown the blue flag quite rightly. Fabi moves over, lets the leader through. Lap 38. And Niki Lauda, who has an ice-cool, almost computerized mind in a race. He's a charming, affable and dry sense of humor man out of the cockpit, but he is a driving machine when he is in it, a driving machine with more experience than anybody else in this race, and he will be very, very conscious of what the situation is with the diminishing gap between himself and Prost. He will be working out how fast he needs to go to keep a lead, and he will also, of course, be watching very carefully his fuel readout. There shouldn't be too much of a problem for fuel in this race. It's a 192-mile race, but it is very quick. The fastest lap in practice was some 157 miles an hour, which means to say that the Österreichring is still not quite the fastest circuit in Grand Prix racing. That is still Silverstone, with a pole position speed this year of 161 miles an hour. But both of them quite dauntingly quick. Lauda now well ahead of Farby, who he has just lapped. He's on his 39th lap, the race leader. The gap was some 17 seconds. Round the Bosch curve, up the little very slight ascent, down into the Texaco bends. The gap is 16.3 seconds now.
Yes, and that very marginal. Prost is going to have to find a little bit extra if he's going to have time to catch and pass Lauda to stand a serious chance of winning, unless, of course, Lauda is going to bow to some team orders and let Prost through. If he wants to catch and pass him, and there's somebody blowing up all over the place.
It's Pierluigi Martini. He does this every race, or he has done recently. I'm not poking fun at him because he's a worthy runner. He's in the Minardi car, and Lauda has just gone past visibly slower. Now, past the pits position, Niki Lauda, is he in trouble? We'll see when the gap between. There he is. That him in the background? I can see people running down the hill. I can't see from here up the hill. But if only the camera could get up a bit, we could tell you whether it was Niki Lauda and whether, therefore, Alain Prost is through into the lead.
Yeah, I think it is that. I think I saw his helmet just being taken off. Yes, it is. So Niki Lauda, once again, in a wretched season for him. Mechanical trouble has struck. And as Niki Lauda was on his way to a possible win in his home Grand Prix, which would have been a lovely leaving present if he can't do anything else in what remains of the season. So that leaves Alain Prost a very relieved man, I should think, so as not to have to go through any dramas to pick up the 9 points, which I'm sure he feels he needs a lot more than Niki does. And so Prost can now take it slowed right down. There goes Niki strolling back, very purposeful, not a very happy man, I'm sure, after a long afternoon's hard work like that, but it's happened to him before. He's been around long enough now to know, and he certainly drove a very good race, and certainly his best race of the season. So I don't think he'll be too unhappy a man, and experienced racing drivers judge their performance on the way they have driven very often, and not on the actual result. And because, of course, the result you can't always control if the car breaks down on you, as happened to Niki, and I'm sure he will be very satisfied with himself. He needed a good performance this year, and he's finally given us one.
Nevertheless, I think the bitterest pill of all for Niki Lauda, he must, in his last Austrian Grand Prix, have wanted very much to win it. He said last year when he won that the fact that he'd won his home Grand Prix really didn't matter anymore. There's the McLaren mechanics with tyres ready. I think this is just a precaution because we know Prost has been in, and certainly Lauda isn't going to come in, and I can't see any reason why Prost should want a second set of tyres so quickly. Let's have a very close look when the camera allows us to at the tyres and see whether those distinctive markings appear on the tyres which indicate that they're wearing heavily and that the driver might well have to come in for another set. But I was saying, a bitter pill for Lauda. Although he said last year the Austrian Grand Prix didn't matter more than any of the others, I find it very hard to believe that he as an Austrian really meant that, in which case this race must have been very important indeed to him. But that's history now. Prost leads, Senna is in second place, Alboreto is in third position in the Ferrari, fourth is Johansson, fifth is De Angelis, sixth and lapped is Mark Sura. So Prost there, going through to complete his 41st lap, has lapped everybody up to the fifth place man, but more now than ever, we're getting confirmation of the fact that the World Championship is developing into a two-man contest, and has developed into a two-man contest between Alain Prost and Michele Alboreto. As we look at the second place man, Ayrton Senna, he's nearly 50 seconds behind Prost. So Prost really has just got to pace himself home now to his 4th official and his 5th actual victory of the year. But I was saying, Alboreto will still very much be in the championship if he finishes 3rd.
Welcome to Masterton Homes, the largest contract builder on the mid-north coast. Masterton Homes, brilliantly designed with exclusive features like Monia roof tiles, Bradford insulation and Rheem hot water systems. Superbly designed and easily affordable. Gracious living within your means. Masterton Homes. On display at the HIA Greater Newcastle Building Society Display Village at Settlement Shores, Port Macquarie.
Thinking of building or home renovating? Kimak Hardware Taree have some great news.
From Ryobi, the company that gave tradesmen their power tools, comes a home craftsman range with true craftsmanship feel.
Chippendale?
Ryobi.
Terribly quaint.
For the right price on Ryobi Home Craftsman tools, see Kimak Hardware, Pulteney Street, Taree, your hardware specialists.
If it's tired, retorque it. For over 7 years, Retorque Engine Reconditioning have provided customers from Dubbo to the coast, from Gundawindi to Singleton, with a totally professional engine reconditioning service. Retorque specialise in the total reconditioning of commercial and industrial engines, truck, tractor, earth mover, stationary motor, petrol or diesel, and they also stock a huge range of engine parts too. Retorque are agents for Lister, Ford Perkins and Rolls-Royce stationary engines. Retorque Engine Reconditioning and engine parts, Wirraway Street, Taminda.
Tired of those old rags you call curtains? Then you need the amazing new Wilson Casa Solar Adjustable Width Ready-Made Curtains. These beautiful curtains that simply adjust to the width of your windows need no lining, are sun-resistant, insulate against heat and cold, look great from inside or out, are stain-resistant and washable. Beautiful, functional and very economical. Casa Solar Ready-Made Curtains by Wilson. Available from Decorama, Peel Street, Tamworth.
The gap now from Alain Prost on lap 44 is 48.1 seconds to Senna, and Senna is 7.3 seconds ahead of Alboreto. Unless Prost has trouble, and I remind you that Niki Lauda had, that's Pierluigi Martini in his 3-wheeled Minardi. He's clobbered something somewhere. He's got 4 wheels on it, but one of them was way off the ground when he came in there. That's a new car in Grand Prix racing this year, powered by the Motori Moderni engine, designed by Ingegneri Schiti, the man who was with Ferrari and Alfa Romeo. And that is the TAG-powered V6 turbocharged 1.5 litre, about 750, 800 horsepower in race trim, and a bit more than that in practice trim of Prost. But here is the man that most people are watching very carefully at the moment, and that's Stefan Johansson, who's in 4th place. And you can see the gap between Johansson and Alboreto. There is Alboreto, this is Johansson. Alboreto has just taken Hube Rotengatter, the Dutch driver, who has replaced Pier Carlo Ginzani in the Osella team. He's been swallowed up by Michele Alboreto there. That's the World Championship leader, a double winner in 1985. He's won 5 Grand Prix in his career, and there's a great puff of smoke from that. Looks, that's the Tolman. That's the Tolman of Teo Fabi. He's coasting. So Fabi is clearly out, as are Rosberg, Cheever, De Cesaris, Alio, Mansell, Piquet, Warwick, Barbie, and of course Niki Lauda, the man who seemed to have the race in his pocket, and this is lap 45. And Prost will certainly, metaphorically, have his fingers crossed now. There's certainly no orders in the Ferrari team. Stefan Johansson, number 28, whose best position so far was second place in Canada and in Detroit, fourth in France. He's fifth in the championship, 16 points, and into the pits comes Jacques Lafitte. Ligier, Renault engine. Ligier have been told that they can't have Renault engines next year unless they're prepared to double the price. They've been asked for a mere reputedly $2 million for engines from Renault next year. Alboreto, third position. Needs to stay there. That's 4 points for him if he can finish in third position. 3 points if he finishes in fourth place. He started the race 5 points ahead of Alain Prost in the World Championship. And the points gap between Prost and Alboreto at the moment in the race is 3. So if Alboreto can stay where he is and Prost wins, he would still lead the championship by 2 points. But Stefan's going to make it very difficult indeed for him. Prost. Into the pits comes Teo Fabi, the very, very quiet Italian. He's coasting round the Bosca. He's not going to get very much further. He'll have to pull off here because there's a little rise in front of him, which he's coming round the Jochen Rindt curve, I'm sorry. He can, in fact, coast into the pits here. And unlike Elio De Angelis last year, he doesn't appear to be laying any oil on that vital corner, as Alain Prost now on his 45th lap. Crests the rise, goes into the Jochen Rindt curve. That's where he went off last year in third position behind Nelson Piquet.